Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are going to go much deeper into a topic that is changing the world right now, often without people even realizing it. We are talking about centralized finance and decentralized finance, not just in a theoretical way, but in a very practical, real-life way. Because at the end of the day, this is not just about technology. This is about your money, your freedom, your risks, and your future. When you wake up in the morning, when you receive your salary, when you pay your bills, when you save or invest, you are already part of a financial system. The question is not whether you are in the system, but which system you are in and how much control you really have.
Yes, Lucas, and I think this is where most people are confused. They think they own their money just because they see numbers in their bank account. But in reality, what they have is a permission to access that money, not full control. The bank is the real controller. The bank can delay transactions, block accounts, apply fees, and even decide certain limits. And most people accept this because it has always been like this. It feels normal. But when you step back and observe carefully, you start to realize that this system is based on trust, and sometimes blind trust, in institutions that you do not control and do not fully understand.
Exactly. And this is where decentralized finance enters the conversation as a completely different philosophy. Decentralized finance says, what if you remove the bank? What if instead of trusting a company, you trust a system of code, mathematics, and distributed networks? What if your money is stored in a digital wallet that only you control, with a private key that only you possess? This changes everything because now there is no intermediary between you and your assets. You become your own bank. But at the same time, you also become your own security system, your own customer service, and your own risk manager.
And this is where we need to slow down and really explain something very important for beginners. When we say, you are your own bank, it sounds powerful, but it also means you are alone. There is no support if something goes wrong. If you lose your password in a traditional bank, you can recover it. If you lose your private key in decentralized finance, you lose access forever. This is one of the most important psychological shifts people must understand. Freedom is not free. Freedom comes with responsibility, discipline, and knowledge.
Let's talk about a very practical example that many people understand: sending money internationally. In centralized finance, if you want to send money from Europe to Africa or from the United States to Asia, you often go through banks or services that take fees, sometimes very high fees, and the transaction can take days. There are also limits, regulations, and sometimes restrictions. Now, in decentralized finance, you can send cryptocurrency from one wallet to another anywhere in the world in minutes, sometimes seconds, without asking permission from anyone. This is revolutionary, especially for people in countries where access to banking is limited.
Yes, and we should also talk about the idea of accessibility. Millions of people around the world do not have access to traditional banks. They cannot open accounts because they don't have the required documents, or because the banking infrastructure is not available in their region. But with decentralized finance, all you need is a smartphone and an internet connection. This creates a completely new possibility for financial inclusion. People who were previously excluded can now participate in the global economy.
However, we must also be honest and talk about the risks, because this space is not perfect. In decentralized finance, there are many opportunities, but also many dangers. There are scams, fake projects, and hackers. People can lose their money very quickly if they don't understand what they are doing. For example, many beginners connect their wallets to unknown websites, sign malicious transactions, and suddenly all their funds are gone. There is no bank to call, no support to recover the money. This is why education is absolutely critical.
And this brings us to another important difference: regulation. In centralized finance, banks are regulated by governments. There are rules, protections, and systems in place to reduce risks. It is not perfect, but there is a structure. In decentralized finance, regulation is still evolving. In many cases, there is no central authority controlling what happens. This creates innovation, but also uncertainty. Some people see this as freedom, others see it as danger. The truth is somewhere in the middle.
Let's also talk about investment opportunities, because this is one of the main reasons people enter decentralized finance. In traditional finance, if you want to invest, you usually go through banks, brokers, or financial institutions. There are procedures, approvals, and sometimes barriers to entry. In decentralized finance, anyone can invest in different projects, provide liquidity, earn interest, and participate in financial activities that were previously reserved for institutions. This opens many doors, but again, it requires knowledge.
Yes, and many people make the mistake of thinking that decentralized finance is a shortcut to easy money. They see stories online about people making huge profits, and they jump in without understanding the risks. But what they don't see are the losses, the mistakes, and the people who lost everything because they didn't take the time to learn. This is why we always say, do not chase money, chase knowledge, because knowledge is what protects you.
Another important concept we need to explain is transparency. In decentralized finance, everything is recorded on the blockchain. Every transaction is visible and can be verified. This creates a system where trust is not based on promises, but on proof. In centralized finance, you often have to trust institutions without seeing what happens behind the scenes. In DeFi, you can verify transactions yourself. This is a major shift in how trust works in financial systems.
But at the same time, this transparency comes with a paradox. While transactions are public, identities are often hidden. This creates a system where activity is visible, but ownership is anonymous. This can be positive for privacy, but also creates challenges in terms of regulation and accountability. Again, this shows that decentralized finance is not simply better or worse, it is different, with its own strengths and weaknesses.
Now let's talk about the future, because this is where things become very interesting. Many experts believe that the future of finance will not be purely centralized or purely decentralized, but a hybrid system combining both. Banks are already exploring blockchain technology, and decentralized platforms are becoming more structured and secure. We may see a world where people can move easily between centralized and decentralized systems, depending on their needs.
Yes, and for our listeners, the most important thing is not to become experts overnight, but to start understanding these concepts step by step. Learn what a wallet is, understand what a private key is, explore how transactions work, and most importantly, take your time. There is no need to rush. The people who succeed in this space are not the fastest, but the most informed and disciplined.
And this brings us to a very important message. Financial education is no longer optional. Whether you choose centralized finance, decentralized finance, or both, you need to understand how money works. Because if you don't understand money, you will always depend on someone else who does.
Exactly. And this is why conversations like this one are important. Not to tell you what to choose, but to give you the tools to think, to analyze, and to make your own decisions. Because at the end of the day, your financial future is your responsibility.
So take your time, learn step by step, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Stay curious, stay disciplined, and stay informed. Bye, everyone.